In this presentation, you will learn about cultural materialism. Marvin Harris, a cultural anthropologist, is responsible for the most systematic statement of cultural materialist principles. Cultural materialism is a systems theory of society that attempts to account for their origin, maintenance, and change. Harris expanded upon the cultural ecology and called his approach cultural materialism. Cultural materialism is one of the major anthropological perspectives for analyzing human societies. It incorporates ideas from Marxism, cultural evolution, and cultural ecology. Materialism contends that the physical world impacts and sets constraints on human behavior. The materialists believe that human behavior is part of nature and therefore it can be understood by using the methods of natural science. Materialists do not necessarily assume that material reality is more important than mental reality. However, when they explain human societies, materialists give priority to the material world over the world of the mind. Karl Marx and Frederick Engels have been in the forefront of the doctrine of materialism. They present an evolutionary model of societies based on the materialistic perspective. They argued that societies go through several stages, from tribalism to feudalism to capitalism to communism. This work attracted limited attention from anthropology in the early 20th century. However, since the later 1920s, anthropologists have increasingly come to depend on materialist explanations to analyze developments in society and understand some inherent problems of capitalist societies. Cultural materialism contends that human communities are interconnected with nature through work, and work is structured through social organization. In all human societies, this is the basis of the industry. Thus, the task of social science is to understand the deeper underlying connections between specific social actions and global trends. Within this, social structure is established by the industry, commerce, production, exchange, and distribution. This in turn gives birth to the ideological possibilities of any culture. The interaction between technology and social organization in a particular environment provides the basis for the social economic classes. The needs of every society and individual must be met, and this creates its own ideological support. For example, with the development of the capitalist society, science develops to meet the needs of its economic requirements. Thus, science and modern industrial capitalism are closely interconnected. This is supported by the fact that the principal ideas of any class society are that of the ruling class. The values and belief systems of a society are defined by the class that controls the material forces of society. The dominant ideology reflects the dominant material relations of the society. In that sense, cultural ecology, cultural materialism shares the same threads with Marxism. Basic assumptions. Cultural materialism is based on two key assumptions about societies. First, the various parts of society change. Other parts must also change. This means that an institution such as the family cannot be looked at in isolation from religion, economic or political institutions of a society. When one part changes, it has an effect on other parts of the system. It views society as a social system of interrelated parts, and this is at the core of most sociological theories. Other theories can be differentiated in terms of the organizing principles. The second assumption of cultural materialism is that the environment is regarded as the foundation of socio-cultural system. Levels of social systems. Cultural materialists identify three levels of social systems that constitute a universal pattern: infrastructure, structure, and superstructure. Infrastructure is the foundation for all other levels and includes how basic needs are met and how it interacts with the local environment. Structure refers to a society's economic, social, and political organization. Superstructure, on the other hand, refers to ideology and symbolism. Cultural materialists like Marvin Harris contend that the infrastructure is most critical as it is here that the interaction between culture and environment takes place. All three levels are interrelated and interdependent, so that changes in the infrastructure result in changes in the structure and superstructure. These changes, in fact, might not be immediate. They may appear to be environmental determinism. Cultural materialists do not disclaim that change in the structure and superstructure cannot occur without first change in the infrastructure. However, they do claim that if change in those structures is not compatible with the existing infrastructure, the change is not likely to become set within the culture. Base structure and superstructure. There exists a complex relationship between the material base of technology, the environment, population pressure, and the ideological superstructure. All the above should be considered as important factors while studying social change. The social consciousness, while being the product of real material relations of society, in turn has an impact on those social relations. This feedback loop is of central importance while understanding the historical dynamics of society. Social consciousness becomes the collective reflection of social relations. Social consciousness brings awareness among people and pushes them to act upon nature and society. Forms of social consciousness reflect a specific social existence. However, this social whole is not a static or passive relationship. Each community has a distinct ideological superstructure which undergoes changes as the economic relations of that society change. All parts of the society share an interactive relationship. Of all the interactive parts, economics is the most important. Simply put, all the interactive parts such as religious expressions, commonly held feelings, ways of thinking, worldview, and different forms of property relations are established from economics. Thus, the social conditions of existence are reflected through the ideology of a society. Members of a community are able to take from nature what they need to survive. This is possible through the means of production, which includes technology, environment, which is also referred to as infrastructure, and work relationships referred to as structure. The interaction between the structure and infrastructure in turn creates what is possible for the various parts of the superstructure. The superstructure includes not only the ideology but also the social psychology of a people. The infrastructure shapes and limits the structure and superstructure. The infrastructure also sets the limits of what is possible for both the structure and superstructure. The interaction between social organization and the use of technology within an environment can be used to understand many particulars about the total culture. This gives us more information about the evolution from band level society to tribal level society, tribal to chiefdom, and chiefdom to state level society. It also gives us information about the changes in organization of labor, including the growing division of labor and changes in technology used by people. With changes in organization of labor, there are corresponding changes in relationship to property. As technology and social organization become more complex, societies move through various stages to a more restrictive control over property. Over a period of time, with a state society, there develop restrictions on access to property based on membership in economic classes. All the three approaches, Marxism, cultural ecology, and cultural materialism, agree that a social system is a dynamic interaction between people as well as dynamic interaction between people and nature. The foundation of the society is production for human subsistence. In producing what people need to live, people also produce their corresponding set of ideas. People create their own ideologies. The productive forces act upon people continually changing them, but at the same time, people are always changing their relationships associated with these productive forces. In other words, people continuously change nature and thus change themselves in the process. In spite of the criticism, it needs to be recognized that Harris left a significant legacy of creating an anthropological theory and disseminating to his students and the public. His work is widely recognized and cited by both proponents and critics of cultural materialism. Harris's anthropological textbook, Culture, People and Nature, is a widely read text that proves the quality of his work. Thank you for watching the presentation.